Hello, welcome to Victory Chat with Jackie. My name is Jackie Mckeever, and on Victory Chat, your victory starts here. We chat about everything from faith to finances, books, and business. And speaking of books, for season 2, we're doing a Behind the Author's Pen edition where we put different authors from different genres in the hot seat, and we get all up in their business and learn a little bit about their works of art, their books. So today I have Trina Trammell. She wrote a book called Sonflower, Joy Comes in the Morning. Hello, Trina. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Are you ready for our 10 power questions and to be put in our hot seat and let us get all up in your business?
I'm ready. I'm ready to tell all.
Okay. Okay. So the first question is, why did you write this book?
Okay, so when I started the process of writing this book, I first wrote it for myself, as this is just a bit of a memoir. And as I continue to write, I began to write for my family, as there's bits and pieces of all of our story within this novel. And then by the time I got to the end of this novel and it was time to publish, I realized that I wrote it for any and everyone that is going through or have gone through similar of what I have experienced. So this book has went from just a personal thing for myself to open it up to whoever's that's willing, and available to read. So it's for everybody.
Okay, so this is not one of my normal questions, but I'm gonna ask you, why did you name the book that?
Sonflower. So this may take us a little off track.
That's all right.
But it's necessary for me to explain the book first, I think, and then we kind of go through it. So I lost my son 8 years ago to a brain tumor. He was 10 years old. And going through the process of writing my story, my journey, and everything else in between, I had several titles for this book. And it just wasn't sitting right. Anyone that's out there, they're authors, they're writers, and you know how this process goes. And my children have a thing with sunflowers. We have them all over our house.
Aww.
And one day I was sitting on my couch and I happened to look over and I saw my kid's picture on the end table. And I had a bushel of sunflowers and the sunflower was resting right up against my son's face, my son in which that passed away. And I sat up, I said, there it is. I said sunflower. So that's why in the cover of the book, I replaced that U with the sunflower because it kind of gives the balance between my son and then the actual sunflower and everything.
Oh, that's beautiful. That is beautiful. Very heartfelt. So how long did it take for you to write this book?
3 years, a little over 3 years. I started in 2017, 17 to be exact, on my birthday. And I slammed about 8 chapters within 3 months. And then I had to sit it down for about 2.5+ years because it's like God told me, you're still not ready to put this out, because going through my stages of grief, I was in anger when I started it. So when I went to read back, I said, oh God, I can't put this out because it was so, I was enraged, I wasn't understanding the process. And so I sat it down, and I'm from New Jersey. I started it in New Jersey. And it wasn't until we moved to North Carolina some years later that I picked it back up and God said, you're ready.
That's good. So, were there any other delays in producing or writing the book besides what you previously mentioned?
I was the delay. So I got all the way to the end. I later discovered that my aunt, which I look a split replica of, is the scariest thing. We look so much alike. Found out that she was an editor. That's what she does. And so we collabed. Later on, no one knew I wrote this novel except for like the immediate one. So when I brought it to her and, yeah, I wrote a novel, and she's like, oh, well, that's what I do. I edit books and things of that nature. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And so I prayed on it, sent her the manuscript, and it knocked her socks off because she didn't know what was coming to her. Get all the way to the end. And I think I was just like scared to put it out because when I tell you, I tell a lot, I tell all, I go in the depths of what can happen to someone experiencing some of what I went through, if not all of it. And so I started to pick things apart, changing, even so much as changing how I wanted my name to be presented as my author's name. Like I just was in my head. So it was me that kind of delayed the process.
That's okay.
But I got out of it.
That's okay, because you got to like what you wrote.
Yes.
Who I think we already asked who was the book written for. I mean, so is this your first book?
This is my very first published novel, yes.
Will there be any other books in this genre or other genres for you?
Absolutely. It's funny because I've always wanted to be a writer. That's what I do. I don't send a regular text message. You're going to get the whole, I'm going to take you right in my head where I need you to be at. And it could be a simple grocery store list. So I've always wanted to become an author, but I never knew in a million years that I would break out in this light, because I was more of a fictional fantasy type, person in my head. And so this was my breakout, but I am planning to continue to, I have a few more self-help in me, and I'm currently working on the second book, but I am going to trickle over into that fiction and see what it is that I can do. Because I figure if I could get through this book here, I could probably write anything. So yeah.
They say the first one is always the hardest one.
Yes. It's your best teacher.
So what do you want readers to get out of your book?
I hate to sound corny because we've all heard this saying before, but seriously, no matter what your storm entails, no matter what it is, there is definitely a light at the end of that tunnel. You'll read kind of repetitively, if the sun would just come up, the sun will come up. There is that brighter picture that, you'll get comfort within your storm. And once getting through my novel, you'll see that if I can get through all of what I've endured, you can too, like seriously. And I experienced death along with a whole slew of other things that happened. No matter what you're going through, the way I structured this novel, you don't necessarily have to have lost a loved one. You don't necessarily have to have had like marital issues or something, but there's something in there for everybody. So
that's good. Are there other books or authors that inspire you?
Yes. So before becoming an author myself, I have, and I wrote them down so I don't forget my main ones, but Lisa Nichols, she is an ultimate inspirational motivator. Love her. Of course, Ayanna Van Zant, love her. Maya Angelou, anywhere from poetry. I have been inspired by authors by way of music, songwriters. I dive into, music, and I, give credit to the songwriter. And then down to the Stephanie Meyers of Twilight Saga and George R.R. Martin, the writer of Game of Thrones. So you see where like I can go from one extreme all the way to the next. And so, but since becoming an author myself, it's very hard for me to read other writers because I want to stay within my zone of my creativity. When you go to read someone else's work, you constantly compare it to what you're doing, and then you lose your way of your creative writing. So I haven't picked up a book of anybody else's in a while because I'm trying to focus on my creative, style.
That's
and
okay.
I want that to push through, and I want it to be my own. So yeah.
So what advice would you give another author or somebody new that's writing a book?
some of what I just said, block out any and everything that may influence you to second guess your own work. Stay exactly true to yourself and trust the process, because it's not an easy one, but trust the process of your journey within your writing your book, novel, whatever it is, a journal excerpt, whatever it is, just trust your own process, because if the thought is there, that means it's meant for you to put it out.
That's right. I like that. Can you give the listeners a quick blurb or sample from your book and let them know where they can purchase it at?
Yes, so I am going to go directly from the back of my novel. All right, so From a Mother's Perspective, Sonflower, Volume 1. 2012 was the year that took the Trammell family by storm. A brush with cancer, losing a loved one, feeling the desperation to hang on to life or death. This story unfolds from the depths of Trina Trammell, author, and her experience with what would be the darkest moments of her life and overcoming them through a spiritual love story of acknowledgement, ownership, accepting the process, growth, and the ability to move forward. You can find my novel on Amazon.com. You can also find it on my personal website, TrinaTrammell.com. So that's TTRAMMELL.com, as well as my online store, TrueMajestic.com, and that's TRUMAJESTIC.com. And as you heard me say, Volume 1, because this is from my perspective and mother's perspective, but I have about 2 more volumes to complete, and it's taken a little longer than expected because I'm working on my husband's perspective from a man's perspective, and it's getting deep. So that may take a little longer, but yes, there is more to come to see things on a different perspective. So yes, more to come.
That's awesome. I applaud you. Good work.
Thank you.
Y'all make sure y'all follow her and purchase her books, support other female authors out there, you know, because we want her to keep writing so we can keep reading. Listen, I love books, so keep going. Yes. Keep going.
Thank you.
To me, it's nothing like a physical book. I read digital books too, but I still love you know, I can't move my camera, but I got a whole bunch of books over here right next to me. Anyway, I still love books, and there's still readers out there. That genre has been in existing a very long time, very popular, and it will continue to grow. Thank you for sharing your book and information about your journey. Thank you for being a guest on our show.
Thank you for having me.
So that is today's broadcast of Behind the Author's Pen with Trina Trammell, author of Sonflower, Joy Comes in the Morning. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel and subscribe to the podcast for more Behind the Author's Pen interview series. And remember, your victory starts here.